Hello and welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast. Phil Penarski here, joined once again by our News 8 sports correspondents, Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald. Gentlemen, let's just jump straight into our first topic of discussion. We've got a couple of other things to talk about, but the main story is USA hockey. What a game on Sunday, and we can't forget about earlier in the week when the women's team beat Canada and won their gold medal as well. I mean, just all in all, we touched on just how much fun the Winter Olympics are to watch and kind of see, all the highs and lows of international sports competition, but it is so much better when your team ends up winning, and that's what happened on Sunday with Team USA beating Canada in overtime. Just an incredible game, and there are a lot of Michigan connections as well that we want to touch on as well. But guys, let's just first touch on where were you during that game, and really what thoughts were running through your mind when Jack Hughes scored that winning goal?
I mean, I wasn't the same place Andy was, which I'm not going to disclose where he was until he says it. I was just at home. I woke up Sunday morning and, turned it on. And, it was just obviously a very exciting game to watch. Once USA scored, you're hoping they would hang on. And, you kind of figured Canada would tie it, and they did. And then you go overtime 3-on-3, and anything kind of happens, right? And you got Dylan Larkin out there, and obviously Jack Hughes. And I don't know, it was, that sense of pride, right, from being from the United States and everything, it was emotional. I'm not gonna lie, you just get a little emotional, like kind of watching the USA do something they haven't done, before Andy was born. So it's been 46 years. So I mean, I was only 7 years old when the USA won in Lake Placid in 1980. So to see him do it again was just a tremendous accomplishment, and obviously, the USA pride was reigning in Milan.
Yeah, it was insane. That was definitely one of the coolest moments, as you said. I was out for that. I was at a local bar in the area called Bob's Bar. It's off of Michigan Street, not that far from where we're doing this at right now. It's a good spot. If you've never been there, for sure, for a game, it's always fun to watch one at. But yeah, it was just one of those moments where it was like, you get that once every 4 years, and you don't always get it to be guaranteed. The USA versus Canada, that's for sure. So to be able to experience that and get that kind of moment with that many people, as you can imagine what the atmosphere was like when they scored the goal, probably off of every other video you've watched from all the big gatherings where people were watching this game.
Right.
It was epic, man. I mean, the fact that Hellebuck's saves got to actually, well, one of them was a save, the other one was McKinnon just missing the net. But the fact that both those moments actually got to come to fruition for the USA because they won the game was so cool, because that stick save is going to be I mean, you're going to be looking at that picture for
you're going to see that on posters.
It was amazing. It was just an epic moment. I mean, just unbelievable effort by him throughout not just that game, but really the entire Olympics to get him to that point. And yeah, I mean, Canada, I'm not going to be the person to sit on here and tell you that they're not the better country when it comes to skill players in hockey, but I said the week before coming in that defensively and goaltending, USA has the advantage, and that truly did prove to be to make a difference. And yeah, McKinnon's comments after was basically, to sum it up, was just kind of talking about how his team played better and that they didn't really get what they deserved or whatever. It's like, well, how about you just make the goal that was wide open in front of you and don't miss the net, and then maybe you wouldn't have to worry about that. I think, and then their coach complained about the 3-on-3 in overtime. They have Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. That's the two best skills players in the sport. So I don't understand, they're Cal McCarr, who is also considered maybe the best defenseman in the NHL. He made a huge mistake that allowed that puck to get free to go into the zone for the USA to have that play too. So overall, they just didn't do themselves any favor to win the game. And I mean, yes, they had a lot of great scoring chances. I think we've all, as watching hockey or being hockey fans, you've had a game where your team just outplays the other team and you don't get the result you feel like you deserve. Probably feels worse than any other sport. It feels like when you get that.
That happens in hockey and soccer, right? You can dominate a game and you lose by a goal or something like that. A
goaltender just can change the game, 100%. And that's what Hellebuck did for the most part.
41 saves.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Just unbelievable what he was able to do. And yeah, the fun fact, I guess, of the game is that the USA scored on their first shot attempt of the game, and they scored on their last shot attempt of the game. So that's pretty cool that happened. That Matt Boldy's goal, that deserves a lot of credit too. People are kind of just forgetting about that one. The way that he was able to work that in the zone and get to the net and score was an insane play. So yeah, overall a really good day, and one that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of the really key thing here is that this was such a sports moment. It wasn't just a hockey moment. It wasn't just an American moment. I mean, this was a sports moment that is going to live for years and years and years. And, I hope I'm, not the only one that felt this way, but there were times I did not think the U.S. was going to be able to pull it out. I thought, Canada kind of was building up all of that momentum. Yeah. Even when it went into overtime, I was still like, I don't know. Connor Hellebuck has been playing so well. I mean, eventually one of these pucks has to go through, right? And thankfully it didn't, and the U.S. was able to come out on top. I mean, was there ever a moment where you guys kind of got worried about this game?
I think it was after Canada scored to tie it. I was a little worried. They had outshot the USA in the second and third periods pretty significantly, especially I think in that second period, right, Andy?
Yeah.
Was it second period?
Mm-hmm. Second period is when it started. I feel like it was pretty much from the second period on they got all played, honestly.
Yeah. and so, that was where I was a little worried, and then obviously 3-on-3. But, the Canada coach wasn't complaining when they won in the quarterfinals,
right?
When it was 3-on-3. You're right. You can say a lot about that, but those are the rules, and that's what was in place, and that's how you played. So, I'm super impressed with Jack Hughes, by the way, to get his teeth broken and cracked, on that play, and then to go out to score the game-winning goal was pretty amazing.
And I didn't even know that he had, chipped his tooth and lost a couple of that. I had no idea until he smiled after scoring the winning goal, and I was like, oh no.
I knew he was down on that.
Yeah, right.
Because that penalty was called, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, real quick, I was worried on the 5-on-3.
Yeah, for sure.
That's when I thought it was over.
That's when it was 5-on-3. I was
like,
if we can survive this, then we might have a chance.
Well, and Jack took the penalty too. He was the reason that it went to the 5-on-3. So that was what was even more insane about it. And he said it after the game in the press conference. He said that he felt like he used Barstool as the example, but he said that he felt like he was gonna be the guy on Barstool like everybody hated because he was the one that took the penalty that kind of lost in the game, and instead he ends up scoring the game winner. So it's also insane. I don't know if you guys have seen a thing going around on social media either about the movie Miracle. Obviously, it's one of the best sports movies out there, and it was 46 years since that happened. They have a scene where they're showing players getting cut from the team, and they like peel the guy's name off the locker that they scratch off on the list. The guy's name was Jack Hughes. That they scratched off. Yeah,
wow.
It's literally insane. Like he was some
that.
player from Harvard that apparently almost made the team. I don't know because I've only seen the clip. I don't know if there's any relation between the two, but I don't think there is. I think they just had the same name. And that's is where I was like, whoa. I was like, how is that not like AI created or like something that just I don't know, doesn't even make sense. So I felt like there's just a lot of like things that went into this game that you just can't believe, and including the final result, really.
Did you guys know that Jack and Quinn Hughes' mom played for the women's team back in the day? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that until yesterday.
And the fact that they both scored to do what they did, it was pretty incredible. But yeah, I was never really, I think I was worried from basically the second period on. The U.S. really only played like good. You felt like at some point Hellebuck was going to let one of those in. Exactly. It was just inevitable that it was going to happen, and it didn't. They got the job done. And the fact that Quinn Hughes was able to score the game winner against Sweden, which is just as close of a game, honestly, when you look back at it, with how tight that was, the way he was able to score. Yeah, the state of Michigan, man. It pretty much is just Jack and Quinn. Hellebuck was from there. Larkin won more faceoffs than anybody in the Olympics, and he played huge. He was part of the reason why they got the puck into the zone to score that game-winning goal too. So he showed off his hustle in the Four Nations and and how important of a player he really is to that roster, and like what he could really do too. But yeah, it's definitely great to see. But then obviously Megan Keller scored the game winner too as well. She's also from the state of Michigan on the women's side. So yeah, it's just like whatever they're doing down there in Ann Arbor, that area of the state, it's definitely right for hockey right now. It's for sure.
Right. No, Michigan very well represented. You mentioned Keller, and then obviously all four guys on the men's team that were on the ice in that overtime were all during that game-winning goal. Were all from Michigan, and Jack Hughes, Connor Hellebuck, Dylan Larkin, and then Zach Werenski. That is pretty cool to say, and again, kind of gives us a little bit more motivation to talk about it as much as we are, because Michigan represented very well at this Winter Olympics.
No doubt.
Hockey right now in the state of Michigan, right? You're looking at Michigan State Western. You look at the Griffins.
That too, right? If you're not a fan of hockey after this, after what we've been dealing with in Michigan over the past 2 years, I just don't think that's a sport you're ever gonna like, honestly.
No, it's a lot of fun to follow right now. It's for sure. We need the Red Wings to not let us down on that part of it. Hopefully they can finish it out and make the playoffs this year. Because they do have a tough stretch coming up for 30, or I think it's around 30 games left, something like that. So yeah, they have a pretty tough stretch left. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Red Wings a little bit, because there were a couple of guys on that team that were in the part of the their respective respective countries' Olympic teams. They didn't get the break that the rest of maybe the teams and players have gotten. That being Dylan Larkin, obviously, with Team USA, Lucas Raymond for Sweden, and then Mo Sider with Germany. Do you think that this break, inviting some of these guys, some of these Red Wings players getting to actually have some international competition, a little bit of extra time to practice, but then also, some of these other guys getting an extended break to maybe recover a little bit. Do you think that this is going to help or hurt the Red Wings going forward? And also, if it does help them, how much more could this really help?
I think it does always scare you. I'm sure Tom McClellan doesn't love it just because they're playing in high intensity games, especially like Larkin. He is obviously key to this team. Like if they don't have him, he's the motor that makes them go. It was proven a couple years ago when he got hurt for the month of March and the Red Wings blew the gigantic lead they had to make the playoffs. So obviously with the weather and stuff, and then they're going to the State of the Union thing, I believe, with President Trump and all that. So that Larkin maybe missed I think Thursday's game, but then he's supposed to be back after that. So none of these guys should be out for an extended period. I think as long as all the travel plans go accordingly, Sider and Raymond are supposed to be on the ice here within a couple of days. So, yeah, I think it definitely helps you as a player to play against some of the best competition. But at the same time, it is also fatigue kind of added on. I feel like you got to travel back. You got to get the time zone. So overall, I feel like it doesn't really necessarily help you because they were already playing pretty good hockey before they left. But again, you're never going to take away those kind of moments. And if this was at a different time of the year, it wouldn't really make any sense, right? So it feels like it has to be right now. But I kind of said to people, it's just it's weird to even think about the Red Wings starting back up again. It feels like it's almost like a new season just because of how long they've been off for. But yeah, it's I can tell you that from the Griffins standpoint, Dominic Shine and Sheldon Dries are probably pretty happy about this them coming back because they've been making the trip up and down the highway to Detroit to practice. They keep getting recalled and sent back down because they have to have bodies for practice because they've been gone for so long. So overall, I think it's a good thing for hockey. I don't know if it's a great thing for your NHL team and the fatigue that they might get from playing over there, but Larkin's really the only one that played that many games that at this point it should affect him, I feel like. But
yeah, I definitely agree with you. There's probably some fatigue involved, but I think especially for Dylan Larkin, how much of an energy boost, I think, right? You win the U.S., you win the gold, and now you're a little more motivated to help this Red Wings team get to the playoffs, I think. So
I think he is motivated.
Yeah, so after a week, I think, I think they'll be fine. But yeah, I think, they're probably loving hockey more than anything. Right now. And so I think that's maybe going to be a little boost for them moving forward as the Wings make their playoff push.
I mean, everybody's seen the video of Dylan Larkin when he was 10 years old, right? You guys have seen that when he's on YouTube with the flag around him and stuff. He's obviously wanted that for so long, but part of me also believes that we've all seen his celebration antics and stuff now and how he's been. He's partying it up pretty hard right now. Yeah. I feel like that's a lot of that is from 8 years of not making the playoffs in Detroit too. I feel like a lot of that is built up that he's just finally something went my way in the end, you know what I mean? So it's cool for him to get it, and hopefully he's able to bring some of that back here and help the Red Wings get there.
Yeah, no, and again, kind of motivate him to chase that next championship win.
For sure.
Not a gold medal, but hopefully a Stanley Cup. Yeah, obviously, again, congrats goes out to all the Olympians at the Winter Olympics, especially the hockey teams. I mean, it was, again, just so great to see. And it was also kind of nice. I mean, I specifically love just kind of waking up and there's already sports on the TV. And that's going to be kind of the case this upcoming NFL season if you're a Detroit Lions fan, because it was just announced earlier on this Tuesday that the NFL will be sending the Detroit Lions to Munich, Germany for a game this season. An opponent has not been named at this time. A date has not been set. They will be playing at FC Bayern Munich Stadium, home of FC Bayern Munich, one of the top soccer teams in the entire world. I mean, it's going to be an electric atmosphere, guys. I mean, how cool is it that we get to see, hometown team kind of traveling overseas and being really in the main stage for growing the NFL as much as they've been kind of pushing these past couple of years.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, obviously St. Brown's very, very happy, right?
Right.
He's from Germany. Yeah. He speaks German.
He's been asking for it for a while.
100%. So I think for him, this is going to be a great moment for him to be able to play over there. Lions haven't played overseas in, I think, 10 years.
2015 was the last time, yes.
Against Kansas City Chiefs, I believe.
It was.
So yeah, I think it's a great thing. Obviously all the NFL teams are kind of doing it right now and trying to grow their sport in other countries. And I heard that the Lions are an official, one of the 3 teams are kind of official sponsors or something of the NFL for Germany. So they'll have a mascot called like Leo Lion or something like that. We'll have to get a picture of that when that comes out, Phil, because I can't imagine what that looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last sport for the Lions, I think, over there, obviously, you know, with people following St. Brown's career. So yeah, it's great for, I'm interested to see what they're going to play, obviously. I think it does take a home game from them, is that right?
It does.
That was,
Yep.
I don't. Does it though? Because maybe would they be considered the away team? You know, they haven't announced the opponent yet. I guess we'd have to wait for the schedule. Obviously,
right? Their home and
I'm
away
not sure
things.
either way. I thought I heard something today about how it's like a neutral site game technically for both teams or something. I don't know how it would
then
work
you would
out.
get 8 home and 8 away.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You
I
could
don't know.
potentially still lose a home game. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And that does matter. I think everybody cares about that part. And then again, what we just kind of talked about with the Olympics, like when you're traveling back from that also feels like that would affect you because like, yes, like people do that for their jobs. Like sure, they travel back from other countries and stuff to go, but it's different when you're a professional athlete, man. I mean, you got to prepare completely different than anybody else for just like a game every week, you know? So
right.
I definitely think that part is a little difficult on them, but for a fan watching standpoint, I think this is great. I mean, obviously, with the experience that I had on Sunday watching that gold medal game, I think it's pretty cool to have sports in the morning like that, especially because, like, I would imagine like the bars around here and stuff like that will do in Detroit will do stuff for that. And that's pretty cool for the community. I think it's like a different way to celebrate it because some people don't like to go out for the Sunday night game at night, you know, or whatever.
Right.
So I think it's kind of cool to have it be in the morning, and some people get to take it as like there's a lot of big like soccer fans I know around here and stuff that wake up and watch some of that Premier League stuff in the morning. I feel like it'd be like the same thing for Lions fans with this. They get to kind of experience that for once. So I think, and just from all the games that have already happened at 9:30, I love waking up and the NFL is already on. I think it's a great thing. So it usually is a game that you don't really have to care about that much unless it's like your fantasy football lineup. But it still would be cool to see the Lions playing in it. And yeah, obviously because of the fact that the Lions have St. Brown, that's just a huge add. So yeah, I think overall it's a great thing. It will be interesting to see who they play because I feel like a lot of the times it seems like over the years they've stuck to some of the same teams. Like I feel like I've seen the Jaguars playing overseas like a bunch, like for some reason, or I don't know. Like it just seems like they've had like a few that like the Jets I've seen playing a lot of these games. I don't know what it is, but I guess the Lions are a new one to at least throw in there. Yeah,
there'll be a lot of people skipping church that Sunday morning.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know, like, what could you do if I'm not like a super religious person, but I wonder like what you could do. Some people like it is mandatory, but I remember like the Catholic faith, it's like you can go to church on Saturday night, or there's probably some services
there's Sunday night services
that
too.
start after the game,
Yeah, right.
Or like, would it be acceptable if you like streamed mass at home and then watched the game at the same time?
I thought you were about to say stream the game in church. I was like, no.
That
would not fly,
that's
right?
for sure.
Attending a church with a big screen TV.
Right.
Unless you're next to people that want to watch, then they probably wouldn't tell anyone. They'd probably be watching over their shoulder.
Just put your earbuds in and stream your game on your phone.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just one of those crazy situations.
Yeah, right.
But
I would imagine it probably is.
Yeah. I think going after church might be the move. Or again, there are some services that happen at 7 a.m. I think you could potentially go there, pray for a Lions victory, and then get straight over to your couch and get ready to tune in for a game. Because that's one thing that I love living here in Michigan, but that is the one thing that is my biggest gripe. I hate being on Eastern time. I feel like by the time games are starting to get good, I'm ready to go to bed at night. And this way, I love just waking up early and just having the game already on. Imagine if you were on the West Coast though for that game. You were a Lions fan. I mean, that game's kicking off right at about 6:30 in the morning. Probably not the best way to start your Sunday.
Let's tailgate that morning.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, something like that. That's for sure.
Let's just go to Germany for that. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't imagine what the tickets go for to go to those games.
Exactly.
I haven't seen any prices released yet or anything like that. But obviously, they don't even know who the opponent is. But
Yeah, maybe our bosses will send us.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll do a podcast from there.
Yeah, Jack can send me. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
We'll start vouching for it now. How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go to the Olympics. Why can't we go to Germany?
Exactly.
Come on.
Fair is fair, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about a team still in Detroit that is having a lot of success right now, and that is, of course, the Detroit Pistons. We want to spend some time talking first about that game last night against the San Antonio Spurs. I don't know if you guys were able to catch it. That was such a great game. Again, the Pistons did lose that one, lost by about 9 points, or 11 points, I think. I think it was 114 to 103 was the final score. But, again, it was way closer than I think the final score would tell. And also, you got to think, Detroit was without Isaiah Stewart in that one, and he would be a great guy to have, especially when you saw guys like Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham and Paul Reed kind of pick up some early fouls. It would be nice to have a guy like Isaiah Stewart in there. But let's focus on, I guess, the matchup between the Spurs and the Pistons. We talked about it in this week's episode of NBA, which is on Wood TV Plus right now for everybody to check it out. But That could be a really fun finals matchup. Again, they have not played OKC yet. The Pistons haven't, but again, that game, it felt like a finals matchup. The Pistons, of course, always going to bring that momentum, that toughness, and then you saw San Antonio get kind of, a little annoyed by that and, again, kind of flare up. Tempers were definitely high in that one.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely a good game back and forth, more than what the score indicated, kind of like what you said. But I think it's also an example of, like, again, what we kind of talked about the trade deadline with maybe the Pistons need to acquire a shooter.
Yeah.
They obviously got Kevin Huerter. He hasn't really been playing a lot, but when Cade Cunningham doesn't have one of his best games, which in my opinion he didn't last night, it kind of shows like that could be the weakness in a 7-game series when you guys don't have anybody else that can shoot from the perimeter or anybody else that can really pick him up, or foul trouble like you mentioned, Phil. It's another thing that can also affect it.
Right.
So I think there was a couple of the Pistons' weaknesses a little bit, but I feel like the Pistons just been winning all these games. Like obviously Cade picked up, and they have been winning all these games. He picked up the slack in that Knicks game, right after the break, and everybody got kind of hyped about that. But it's like you can't rely on that kind of game, 7 games in a row. Like you listen all around today, and people are already freaking out on like local shows and stuff about like, oh, Cade had this game, maybe he's not as good as Wemby or whatever. It's like, people have bad games. Like that's
Right,
basketball,
right.
man. You're not going to make every shot or score 40 points every time you play. So, it's just I think it was more of a one-off last night that the Pistons just didn't have like their best game, and obviously missing Isaiah Stewart is huge, and that's why hopefully they learn from what they did in that game and they don't keep making that mistake going forward, because it's going to be another factor in the playoffs. Obviously they have a lot of depth, but I feel like the Pistons work together well with all of their pieces, and if they don't have all their pieces, that's going to make it really hard in a playoff series. But nevertheless, you gotta hope that Duncan Robinson can do a little better than he did last night shooting in most of the playoffs games they planned. But yeah, I think it's more of a one-off. I'm not like gonna freak out and worry about it, but I do think the stretch ahead will prove a lot for what we really know about the Pistons against these teams from the West.
Yeah, definitely. I watched that game, and it was close until I think end of the third, early fourth, and then San Antonio pulled away. I think the one big thing is Wemby's length, I think, played a part. The Pistons were forced into a lot of tough shots, and that's what Wemby kind of does, right? Like,
Have you ever watched a
he makes
player
the
like
bad shot.
Wemby?
No.
Honestly.
And it's funny because I watched that game, and it was like, it's just so crazy. He stepped out behind the three, made that three-pointer, I think, midway through the third, whatever it was. And what do you do about that, right? Jalen Duren can only come out so far. But yeah, San Antonio shot better than the Pistons last night. I saw Duncan Robinson had an air ball. I was like, what are we doing? But no, San Antonio really shot the ball well. I like San Antonio's guards. I would love that matchup because I remember the Pistons-San Antonio matchups from 2007, 8, when Robert Horry was breaking my heart. So if we can go ahead and have another rematch with those two teams, I think it'd be very deserving because both are up-and-coming teams. Obviously, They stunk like 2-3 years ago, and now look where they're at. So yeah, that'd be a great finals preview.
Even the matchups like Tim Duncan and stuff, man. And the going to work Pistons. So it's like it would be pretty ironic if that's the first team they played in the finals.
Yeah, but just like Duke, Michigan felt like a national Final Four game or whatever. I think the Pistons San Antonio game had that same feel of a postseason battle.
Yeah, for sure. I think everything you're seeing from the Pistons still shows that they're they will be good this year in the playoffs. I don't think it's just going to be like a one-off from the regular season.
No, and to me, they should get the 1 seed. I'm worried a little bit about the Cavs, to be honest with you, right now. And Phil, you probably talked about that with AJ. But like Harden and Mitchell and Darius Garland's coming back, so that's
a lot of names.
That's a team I think we really have to kind of watch out for going forward. And Boston's been playing a lot better.
Right.
Jaylen Brown absolutely. I was going to say a bad word. Absolutely, haunts the Pistons. He plays very well against the Pistons.
Yeah.
So that's just another team. But I'm excited for these playoffs coming up. We have to get that number 1 seed, I think, win our first playoff series since a very, very long time, and move forward.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about
playoff game.
Yes, win a home playoff game.
Please.
Hopefully we'll be there, Andy.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, let's talk about this upcoming stretch, though, for the Pistons. And I got to be honest, before that San Antonio game, I was a little worried, but I actually feel better after that game. I feel like, that we've seen the Pistons kind of go on these long stretches of winning, and then maybe they have a stinker here and there. And, not to say that losing to 11 at home versus the Spurs was the all-time greatest stinker ever, but again, you did drop that game, and hopefully that you're able to kind of bounce back over these next couple of games, because these next 5 games are crazy. They go to Oklahoma, or they host Oklahoma City, I should say, reigning champs there. Then they host the Cavaliers, who Dean just talked about, up and coming, the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. Then they they have to go to Orlando, always a tough place to play. And then they got the Cavs and Spurs again. So again, 5 games against playoff teams, teams that you will probably be seeing in the playoffs, teams you might even be seeing in the finals, top teams all across the league. How important is Detroit to maybe win, let's just say even go 3-2 over these next 5 games? How important is that to, again, just kind of state their claim as the best team in the East and, again, a top team in the entire league?
Well, if you listen to people right now, that would be the end of the world. So I think that's like what it's so crazy to me. It's like, I don't know if people have ever watched other good basketball teams.
Right.
They do lose a game every now and again. So that does happen. But yeah, I think 3-2 would be great, really. It's like, as long as I think in basketball, the thing you got to watch for more than other sports is like, if the game is competitive and close, it usually means a lot when push comes to shove. So, I think what you saw last night was still a good effort from the Pistons. Obviously, again, they're a little undermanned right now, so that does hurt them, and it sucks that for this stretch, they're not going to have a key and important piece like Isaiah Stewart for most of it. But yeah, I think overall what you're seeing is okay. I think you do need to see some wins because, if you don't get any of those wins against teams from the West, I mean, it's going to be hard to imagine in a playoff series the Pistons could beat somebody from the West if they did make it to the NBA Finals. So, yeah, these games are obviously key. I think a 3-2 finish would be great, and I think that would be something positive that you could, push for going forward, because I have no doubt in my mind that with the leader that Cade Cunningham is, after not having his best game this game against the Spurs, he's going to come out and play great in the next one. So I think they're going to be fine going forward with the people that they have. It's just, again, everything changes when it comes to the postseason. You can only learn so much right now. But I think overall, if they can play well in some of these games and kind of learn from some of their mistakes and show it during this stretch, that'll go a long way for sure.
Yeah, their bench has to continue to play well. They didn't play very well last night. They didn't get a lot of points off the bench last night. Paul Reed and Jenkins came in to do some good things. But yeah, they need more production from their bench, and they have to stay out of foul trouble. Those are obviously important. But yeah, you're right, Andy. They need to stake their claim, or Phil, you said this, stake their claim as the best in the East, and you have to win those tough games against good teams to be able to do that. So yeah, 3-2 would be great. They're probably going to drop a couple of them. Hopefully, they're not the home games.
Right.
I don't think they'll be playing against Shea for the Oklahoma City game. I think he's still sidelined, so that would be a good thing. But yeah,
is it a good thing though? Like, wouldn't you want to see him play against them at this point?
Yes, but you also want to win. Too.
I mean,
I'm not saying they couldn't beat them with Shea, but Shea is obviously MVP and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah,
is he though, or is it Cade?
No, last year he was.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation.
It is.
Yes, it is. That'll be another episode.
Right.
But no, 3-2, like 4-1 would be great, but you can't have like a 3-4 game losing streak.
No.
And I think one thing that's funny about the Pistons is you have not really seen any games where they've gotten blown out this year.
Right.
No.
They lost by 11 last night, but it's not really a blowout. But so many teams right now are not that the Pistons are tanking, obviously, but like there's so many blowouts in the NBA, and the Pistons have been doing most of the blowouts, blowing out of.
Yeah.
So
I mean, when you show like, or you even say that, like it's like, 11 points feels like a blowout. That means that your team's probably competing every night. That's 100%. For sure.
Yeah, and that game wasn't in doubt until the end of the game. Last 3-4 minutes.
But that's the thing. It's like, I think at the end of the day, the Pistons are always going to give the effort. I think you want to see how they compete against like the best players in the league, because that's like, for me, it's like at this point in the year, we know they can win games. We know they can win a lot of games. I'm not sure how this team's going to respond when every team, because obviously everybody has rest days and everything else in the NBA, and it's just kind of how it works. I'm interested to see like when push comes to shove in the playoffs, what they can do. And the unfortunate part about that is we're not really going to have an answer until those games happen.
Right. And real quick, did you guys see the report about Asar Thompson and Bickerstaff getting into a little heated thing?
I did not.
No, I did not.
So that happens, I guess, in the third quarter. The Pistons are up by 1 or down by 1, and then he benched them for the rest of the game. And so that lead went from 1, or that deficit went from 1 to like 11, and obviously the Pistons ended up losing. But yeah, there was some type of argument back and forth with them, and then JB basically benched him for the rest of the game.
I can't say I dislike that.
So hopefully that doesn't continue, right? Hopefully that was just a competitive thing between those two, and that can be dismissed.
Either way, I like JB like showing the action to do something there. I think after what has kind of been. I mean, like, he's been a great coach, and he's the reason this team is where they're at. But obviously, we all agreed that the fights going on probably aren't the best thing and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Obviously, that isn't related to that, but I think either way, it's good to show some disciplinary action sometimes. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we have completely run out of time, unfortunately, on today's episode. We were going to talk a little bit about spring training with the Detroit Tigers, but we'll save that again for next week. We got all summer, really, to talk about Tigers baseball, and we're very excited about that. It's gotten lost so far. The start of spring training got lost in the mix of all these other great sports moments going on right now, and we're just glad to be able to recap that with you all today on this latest episode of Sports Frenzy. For Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald, I'm Phil Pinarski, hoping that you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again next week.